So let me begin by showing you what we can do with larches. How do we train them? These are two examples of larches that we grow in the nursery. This one must be about, I would say, 3 going on 4 years old from seed, and it's about 30 centimeter long or tall with lots of nice branches. This one is about 60 centimeter tall, and we always chop them. We don't let them grow indefinitely. You can see where the first chop was done. This was last year's growth, so they can produce like 30 centimeters easily in a year. This tree would be every bit 6 to 8 years old. I can't remember how old exactly it is, but we don't let some of our larches just grow indefinitely. So we do trim them back all the time. Generally, the tall ones like this are kept for making forests, and the shorter ones we use for making into informal upright tree. So let me show you what I do with a tree like this. So with a tree like this, I can make it into an S shape. So I will find some wire. Always difficult to know what grade of wire to use. I think this is like 3 mil. I want to give it a very tight bend, and that's why I'm using 3 mil. I probably don't need all that length. I think 2.5 would also do. I'm not taking it out of this pot because I think I potted it up only last year. So if I took it out prematurely, I might disturb the root. So I just wrap it around the trunk. This, what we call the informal upright or S shape, is the most basic shape that we use for bonsai. And at all my classes, I like to show people how to make the S shape or informal upright shape, because once you understand how to make the shape, every other shape in bonsai will be more or less based on it, and you will get confidence to proceed from there on. When we come to the top part where the branches are thinner, I don't bend it so tight. I just make a little loop to guide the branch through. And once the wire is put on the trunk, all you do is do like a pot stirring action like this. So you can see what I'm doing. I just do a pot stirring action, and lo and behold, you will get a nice S shape. I said I wouldn't take it out. I think it is quite safe to take it out. There you go. I don't need all the branches to be so long. And then I'll proceed to wire the branches. When it comes to wiring the branches, again, wire everything in pairs, and you should be okay. So with this one, this basic informal upright style of bonsai, and with a tree of this size, I reckon I can produce one every 3 minutes. I still remember the days when I used to go up to the BBC studios in Birmingham, Pebble Mill, and I did a program called Pebble Mill at 1, and the producer asked me, how long does it take you to produce a tree like this into bonsai? So I said, we take on the nursery 3 minutes to produce each tree. So he said it's ideal time for television. So I had to do one like this at speed in 3 minutes dead. So, as I say, if I didn't talk or give you a running commentary, I could do it in 3 minutes. But I'm just showing you in detail. So I'm trying to find branches that I can wire. I may have to use 2 grades of wire. I'm using 1 mil, but I can use thinner wire as well. There are some thicker branches than others, so the slightly thicker ones I will continue to use 1 mil. And this is, in fact, is 1.5 mil. I will use the 1 mil in a minute. With most of these informal upright shapes, as long as you wire every single branch in sight, you can't go far wrong. And with young plants of this age and thickness, if you keep the wire on for about a year, they should set. I'm just getting a slightly thinner wire. Pity I can't show you great detail because I'm self-videoing. Too many branches, I take some out. These very young ones I might leave to let them grow on a little more. And hey presto, this is the shape that you can get. So this is the basic informal upright shape, and you can put it in a bonsai pot. Now what would you do with a tree like this? Many people think that this is almost an impossible tree, but you can do exactly the same thing. So, because this is 6 to 8 years old, although it's thick as a pencil, it is quite difficult to bend because it is quite old. So I will use quite thick wire. I'm going to use, this is almost 4 millimeter wire. When you wrap the wire around the trunk, you can make it quite tight. And like the pines, I sometimes don't worry about the wire marks because these conifers, they assume a lot of character when the trunks are marked and they look rather nice. So don't worry about wire marks on these larches and pines. Now it's slightly thinner at the top, so I haven't taken the thick wire all the way to the top. Now let me give the bottom part a twist. So again, the twisting action is like stirring a pot. And if you use the right grade of wire, you can make it bend like this. But because I want to wire the top as well, I'm going to wire the top using another piece of wire. I'm going to wrap it around this branch. So I'm applying the two branch principle in effect by wrapping it around an existing branch and then taking it all the way to the top using a thinner wire. I hope it will bend it. If it doesn't, I'll put a double strand of wire. So I've done a double coil in effect. Can you see what I've done? So where the wire is a bit thicker, you notice I've used, this is 1.5 mil wire. I've applied this to the thicker branches, and where there are thinner branches, I'm going to use the 1 mil wire. So you always adjust the thickness of wire to the task in hand. So it's always useful to have different grades of wire so that you can use the correct gauge of wire for the job in hand. Many people are a bit miserly and they only buy one size of wire. You seldom get away with just one size of wire. It's usually maybe 3 or 4 different gauges of wire for every single tree that you make. So you remember the fundamental principle. Wire virtually every branch that can be wired, and the rest will take care of itself. So if I don't want it that tall, I can bring this down. So just by doing that, I produce this very nice S-shaped tree and let it grow for a year, and it will thicken very rapidly. So this is the basic shape that I create for my larches. Now, in case you think that all trees have to be made into the S shape, that is not so. This is a tree that I've had for about 20 years. I'll just bring it close to show it to you. Look at it. It's so thick as my thumb at the base, and it has never been wired. All I've done is grow it to the top, and you can see the taper is near perfect. And I'm just going to trim some of these shoots back. So each year I just trim the shoots back to create the pads. And this is what I've done year after year. It hasn't come out into leaf yet completely, so you can just grow a larch straight and it can still look very nice. So you don't have to make everything into an S shape. So that is the most basic shape that we work on when we make a larch. So these can simply be put into a bonsai pot straight away. I don't need to show you how to do that. Now let me show you some more established larches which need working on. Now this larch is about 70 centimeter tall, and it has been wired certainly from here to there to give it that very nice curly S shape all the way to the top, and the branches have been wired and the pads have been established. So at this time of the year, what do we do with it? We just trim these shoots back so that the pads are kept compact. So nothing more to do than that. So once a tree is fairly well established, you don't have to do much more. And as I said to you earlier on, larches are quite unlike the pines, where you have to deal with the candles and you need to know how to deal with the candles. You don't know how to deal with the candles on a pine, you will lose control of it completely. Whereas with the larches, being a deciduous tree, you can literally treat it like a maple or any other deciduous tree by just trimming the ends and creating the pads. How easy is that? You don't have to do much else. Don't have to worry about taking this candle out, that candle out. So just trim the ends. If you want to wire that down, I can wire that down. And they do produce quite long shoots. So these long shoots, we just keep them. See, these are all wired at some stage. That's why they have this lovely curly shape in the pad. And the thing is not to keep adding to the height all the time. This can be the front, or this can be the front. Very versatile tree. I'm going to put this back into a drum pot, so the shape is going to be quite nice. You can make little gins with that. So that's how you would trim the larch. I will show you the trimming on another one. Let me just bring the camera near to show you some of the detail. Let me just do a bit of a critique on this tree, because this tree is quite tall. Should you not want to grow it that tall, you can cut it over here and create a new apex at that point rather than use the entire height. So that is one possibility. But looking at this apex, it is a bit dysfunctional because there isn't much going on the right hand side. So if you bear with me with this image, I'm going to put a bit of wire at the top and change the shape of the top. Now, because I'm self-videoing, I'll just show you what I've done. I've put a piece of wire to straddle across from the potential apex to one of the side branches. And now I'm going to create a side branch to correct this defect. So bear with me. So if you look at this tree, at the moment, there's too much on this side, on the left hand side. So I want to correct that. So I will pull the apex up and I will bring this back branch more to the right hand side so that it balances it. I don't want to cut off that cone. There's a very nice cone there. So I've more or less equalized it. So hopefully that will become better. Now this is a bit of a defect, but although it is a defect, I like to let it grow because it makes it slightly different. So I'm not bothered about that. Anything pointing down I will get rid of. So that is that tree done. It's going to go in a new drum pot. So we will see when this is finished. When all these trees are potted up, I'll show you some final shots of that. Now let me take this aside and show you another one that I'm going to prune. Now this is a rather hairy tree, and it's got all sorts of possibilities. It is almost like a semi-trained tree, but I can assure you all this has been wired before, so most of that shape has been created over a long period of time. And let's see how we can improve this one. So let's see. I think I will begin by taking many of these wires off, so I'm not going to waste your time by showing you that. So I will just switch the camera off while I de-wire the tree. So let me explain to you how this tree was possibly made. This trunk could have been wired when it was quite young to give it that nice curly shape. And it was obviously chopped there. That was the main branch. That was chopped there. And a side branch was trained up. And that was wired to give it that curly shape. So it's got beautiful trunk line. Beautiful trunk line. You can turn it around. You can see it has got beautiful trunk line. So what we're going to do really is refining this tree further. So it's got a potential pad here. And there are like 3 pads here. And there is one branch here which is on the inside of the elbow. We don't usually like branches on the inside of the elbow, but let's see if we need it. I won't get rid of it straight away, but over here there are 3 potential pads there. If I bring the camera near, you can see for yourself what is happening there. So you can see that there are 3 branches coming out from that point. We don't need all 3, so I will take the middle one out because 3 would be too much. I think we only need 2, so I will take the middle one out. Pity I'm having to self-video, but I hope you see what I'm trying to explain to you. So I take the middle one out, and I'm going to concentrate on these 2 as the pad. So as not to distract, I know that a lot of these long shoots I won't need, so I can more or less concentrate on the job in hand. So I'm going to wire these 2 to separate it a little more. using quite thick wire. This is 3.5 mil wire. Anything thinner won't do the job. So I'm forcing it apart so that it won't interfere with each other. And these lesser ones, I'm also going to wire to flatten it so that I can get a more defined pad formation. You must be wondering why I'm touching this branch. I'm beginning to wonder whether this is strictly necessary or not, but since it was grown, I will leave it till I finish the design and then decide what to do. The same with this one growing on the inside. I'm not sure if I need it, but I won't get rid of it straight away. I may just shorten the pad and then I'll decide later. Now let me deal with the apex to see what I can create with that, because I need to create a triangular apex like so. So to do that, I'm going to use quite thick wire to create that shape. But many of these long branches probably we won't need, so rather than let it interfere too much and distract me, I'm going to just shorten these a little bit. I'm not cutting it off completely, I'm just shortening them. Again, I'm not going to decide whether I keep this or the other side as the front, but I'll keep my options open. I will keep the options open. So at the moment, it looks like this is a possible front. So I will just mark it with my marker to remind me. And I'm going to create this shape. So I'll use quite thick wire to do that. You notice I'm using old wire. This wire has been used once before. By now you realize that I never waste anything. This is all recycled wire. I was able to judge right that piece of recycled wire is just the right length. Now how did I guess that? Okay, now put that down. Let's see if it'll bend. There's quite a lot of growth at the top. I'm not going to get rid of it because it may help to create a density at the top which I will need. I like wiring larches at this time of the year because the needles haven't extended fully. Of course you can wire them before they even emerge, but once they have come into full leaf, it may be more difficult to wire, although you can wire at any time of the year. It's just that it may be a bit more difficult to wire and you will be trapping more of the foliage. Like most deciduous trees, they are quite vigorous in the summer, so they produce lots of shoots. I should just mention that with larches, if you leave the wires on during the winter, for some reason the cold which is transmitted from the wire to the branches can sometimes cause branches to die back. This is what I noticed ever since I've been making larches in the early 70s. As I told you, when I first came to this nursery, all I ever produced was larches because that was easily available. I could buy them from forest nurseries and make bonsai from them, and that's how I survived because I didn't import any plants in those days. So everything I made was made from larch. So there's a lot of wiring to do. So there are a lot of pads to wire. So I'm not going to show you everything because it's going to take up too much time. So I'm going to turn the camera off. So I'm going to wire all these flat. So I've done some of this wiring to do that pad. Now the top is looking a bit untidy. I'm going to wire these to create more of a conical shape there. And then let's see where it goes after that. So I won't show you how I do it because you won't be able to take in the detail anyway. I may just show you a little bit. So I'm trying to explain as much as I can about what I'm doing. At least by self-videoing, we can get some results. I'm now just going to explain to you about the apex. A lot of people, they keep producing the tree taller and taller. They are hard pressed or find it difficult to make a decision as to where to terminate it. So this was going upwards like that. I don't want to keep it going upwards. So rather than take it upwards, I just simply bend it down and create a round sort of apex over there. So that is one way of dealing with that problem. So don't always feel that you have to keep adding and adding, because many people, they keep adding more and more to the top and the tree eventually reaches the sky. That wire is like a thick coil, but I'm not worried too much about that. I'm only guiding it along, so it may not look very nice photogenically. And then these, instead of letting it grow up, I'm just going to wire these down to give it more of a crown type finish rather than a pokey feather-like finish. Now I've wired most of the tree, but I have a few problem branches. There's this branch here, which is a very thin branch, and a branch here. So what do I do with these? I'll just bring the camera closer to show you what the problem is. So it's this branch that I'm talking about. What do we do with this one? And what do we do with this straggly one? And this one, which is on the inside of the elbow. I think this one on the inside I can easily take off. This one I will also take off, so those are not big issues. So I just cut this off with the secateurs. And this one I will take off also with the secateurs. Filming with one hand and cutting off with the other hand. So the inside of the elbow is free. Now this one comes up that way, but if I can put it to one side, it may fill that gap quite nicely. So I'm not in a rush to take that off. What I need to do is to refine this. This is a bit crude. Make this a bit thinner, and I will show you what it will look like if I reduce this to make it a more respectable gin. So what we do is we try to quarter this bit of wood. So using the root cutter tool, I will try and just reduce this lump, make it more manageable. Very hard to perform for the camera. It's working from the wrong side. That's what I'm doing. I'm just rolling the wood back. So you can see I've made that thick stump much thinner. I don't like using gins just for the sake of using gins, but I think this was appropriate, so I don't feel so bad about that. And in the future I could take the shari down there. So that's not looking too bad. So now this can come here and fill that space. So let me wire this and see what happens. I have to anchor it somewhere. So I will, what we call self-anchor. That means I'm not using the two-branch principle, but I'm going to bring the wire back on itself, because the next branch is too far away. So you'll have to excuse me for doing that. I apologize that this has taken so long, but I will have to do the other larches. I have so many other larches waiting to be done, but I will do it in separate videos. So this video is about larches in general, and this one refined to some extent. This pad will be developed over a period of time. That's more easily done. So this branch fills this space, otherwise there was going to be too much space over here. So it's almost like a literati type larch. And I'm going to put it in a drum pot, and I will then see what you think. So here you are, that's the finished tree. It's not a classic literati, but it's got the literati character with beautiful movement. I've reduced the size of that little bit of gin, and I've just refined it and continued that very sinuous line. If I can just hold the camera now and just take a closer shot, I'll show you what it actually looks like from close. And when this comes into leaf, this is going to look really magnificent. Without all the needles out, it doesn't look that impressive, but I can assure you when the needles come out, I will take another shot of this. I'm now going to pot up the other two little trees I made just to show you what they look like. Bear with me. So here you are. This is what I did just this afternoon in the space of about 1.5 hours. That was the little larch that I started off making. One of our 3 to 4 year old trees. This was a much older 6 to 8 year old tree, put in like a round pot, just to emphasize the sinuous line. They will thicken in time. They're already thicker than a pencil. And this was that larch that was partly trained with a very sinuous line. And when they come out in full leaf, I will probably film this again. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I will do several more videos about larches because I've got lots of them to work on. So hopefully you will enjoy these larch videos.